and he, takes the driver, just goes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and this thing just, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This is Be Better Golf. So the point of the Be Better Golf is I go around the country and sometimes the world looking for different unique ways of getting better at golf, and that's what brings me here to Benicia, California today. There's a guy called John Erickson that used to be a tour player that he believes has come up with the total solution to total ball control. He's all about controlling the golf ball. So these are methods that have been used in the recent years to win a bunch of events on the PGA Tour, to take people's rankings all the way up. And he saw my swing and told me that he can get me completely controlling the ball if he is just allowed to show me a few things. And he runs this website called Advanced Ball Striking that a lot of people know, and he's kind of come out of hiding again to be featured here on Be Better Golf. So we're here at his house, and he said he basically does everything out of his backyard here. So let's go check it out here. Hey! Yeah, I guess it was there a way to get through here. Oh, okay. Pleasure.
Good to
Good to see you in person,
yeah.
yeah. And this is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hey. Thanks for having us out.
Yeah, well, welcome to the deck.
This is kind of where you do your thing, but before we get into that, you were talking, reiterate for us, so there was kind of like your junior golf way that was extremely successful for as a junior golfer. So kind of talk just swing-wise about what you used to do, and then what convinced you to change, and then how you actually, made that change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started with the golfing machine, and the kind of release that I was using was a swinger's release. So basically the idea was you're going to come back and I'm going to try and time the straightening of the shaft. So the shaft is going to flex like this at the top, and I'm going to take that flexation and I'm going to come down and I'm going to time the release and the straightening of that shaft right at the low point. So
can you demonstrate that?
Yeah, so this is
hit one like that?
I don't know if I can hit it like that anymore.
Oh, okay.
No, I can't. These are the kind of swings that were kind of long and smooth, and the flowing, and a lot of the toe is going to be very, very active. So after the strike, the toe is going to be moving over, the arm is going to straighten out. The right elbow is going to have a lot to do with closing the club face and straightening through the shot. So you see this happen. A lot of tour players do this. Phil Mickelson is a perfect example of a guy who's coming through and doing this. Yeah. Very active toe. For me, that was streaky, very problematic at times. I mean, sometimes I'm just spraying it all over the place.
But at the time you just thought, like, well, that's golf.
Well, yeah, that's what I knew. Yeah. That's what I knew, and that's what I did. And I was a, successful junior, scholarships all over the place. Went to college, was an All-American at Fresno State, and I made the quarterfinals of the U.S. Amateur and won the conference championship, and blah blah blah. Okay. So I had feathers in my cap from that. So I turned pro. I go to Canada. I thought I'll play a tour like that first before I'm going to try anything else, and I qualified easily and played the first year in the Canadian Tour, made the top 30 on the money list, got an exemption to go play in Australia. So I go down to Australia and have to qualify on Monday, and I get in the first tournament, and I'm in the Australian PGA Championship, and there's all Ian Baker Finch, and won the British Open, and all these players. All of a sudden, here I'm just out of college, and now I'm playing against Ian Woosnam. The next week, Greg Norman shows up, and it's like, wow. So to make a long story short, I'm on the driving range at the Australian Open a few weeks later, and I'm hitting balls, and I'm hearing Greg Norman is on this side, and Sandy Lyle over here. He's just won the Masters, and the sound of the golf ball was just, like explosions. I mean, it was just, and I'm sitting there with this kind of long, flowing sort of swingers sort of release, and I'm hitting these little shots out here, and I felt like I was like a little amateur kid, out there against these guys, and I thought, and and I remember playing in the Australian Open, and it was windy, and the greens were hard. Royal Melbourne.
Oh, is that Royal Melbourne?
Royal Melbourne, and I mean, the course was tough.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I shot, if memory serves me right, I think I shoot 73, and I played good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And guys are shooting, you know, good players are shooting 76s, 78s and stuff. When I get in, I shoot like 73, 74, I think, and I make the cut by 5 shots.
Yeah.
I mean, this is tough stuff.
Yeah.
Greg Norman shoots 66, 66.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm looking at this going, there's not that many birdies out there.
Right,
You know what I mean? Where am I even making 6 birdies when the greens are like, you know, like a rock?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm hitting, you know, this is in the persimmon and blade era where, you know, I have this 1 iron in my hand, and we're using these to come into par 4s with 1 irons and stuff. And there were like, there were 6 par 4s over 440 yards, and that's in the persimmon era. And I know that's a wedge now.
Okay. Yeah.
But then, you know, we're talking, you know, you're coming in with 2 iron, 4 iron, 4 wood, 1 iron, right?
Yeah.
So the trajectory of the shots coming into the greens is a low trajectory, and you're coming into a pretty firm green. This is tough stuff. You're not just floating a wedge in there or short iron.
So to see Greg Norman shoot 66, was that like just blowing your mind?
Yeah,
like,
I'm just like, you know, and then there's this guy named Peter Senior down there at the same time, and then later in the season, or maybe, I don't know, it's all kind of a blur because I played a few years, I played 4 years down there. I maybe it was the next year, but he wins 3 tournaments in a row, Peter Senior. And this guy he'd shoot 64 every week, whether it was the first round or maybe the last round Saturday, and on these courses that are so hard. And I'm, you know, if I shoot 69, I'm like, man, that's the best I could do out there, you know. And this guy's beating me by 5 shots. I'm like, how? How is that even possible, right? So, you know, these guys are just playing at a level that's just beyond what, you know, I could see myself doing.
Something technical they were doing with how they were doing it than how you were doing it.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. When I get off the plane, okay, I fly down to Australia, and you know, I'm using this, you know, let's just say, you know, from this angle, I'm kind of, you know, using a late load in the golfing machine. It was like a float load or snap loading, and then I'm gonna come down, and I'm just gonna have dead hands coming through, and I'm just gonna let centrifugal force just release that club through the shot. That toe is really active. It's really moving a whole lot. And I felt, for me at least,
really passive with the
just dead. Just
pivot
just
power.
dead hands, just you know. And I could hit it pretty far, like that, but it didn't travel well. Like, I'd get off an airplane and my body's stiff. Even when I was 23, I'm just like, you know, I got to stretch and, like, you know, stretch out and do all these, you know, so I'm loose and limber, and feeling that low point to where it's just this fluid thing. I don't feel like that when I get off the plane. So, and I remember being at one of the tournaments down there, and Ian woos them like, oh yeah, it was a practice round. They're like, oh, his plane hasn't landed yet. He's coming in from, you know, Europe. Yeah. Oh yeah, Ian, hold on, he's gonna be here, and you know, taxi comes, Ian Woosnam gets out, and you just see him, and he's like, he just walks up. He's just off the plane. Stiff. I mean, I know how I feel off a plane, you know. And he just goes like this, tees it up real high, boom, like this, and he just, you know, takes the driver, just goes. Okay, and this thing just, and I'm like, what is that? You know what I mean? I'm sitting there trying to, you know, oily, stretchy, right? You know, and these guys, and then I see Pete Senior, right? And it's like watching this guy. So, you know, he's got this short little swing, and I love it. These guys are just kind of like a tap, tap, tap.
Yeah.
That's what these swings look like.
Tempo totally different.
Oh, totally different. So what is the difference between and
right.
Now, who's winning all the tournaments? These guys.
Yeah.
It's the guys with these short little swings. They're sitting up going, they just tap the club behind the ball, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting some heat on that thing. And it's like, look at what's happening to this mat, right? I come back home. I mean, I did okay. I made all the cuts.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, working my butt off, working on this stuff. But you know, I'm just finishing like 25th, 43rd,
Yeah.
30 something, you know, whatever. I'm picking up checks. I'm making a living. I'm seeing. I'm not going to be able to play with these guys with this. So I come home and I go see my teacher, Greg McHatton.
Yeah.
I said, what are these guys doing? I said, I can't play against, this isn't going to work, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get to that level.
So you kind of told Greg, like, when they're there, they're shorter, they're quicker, they're...
Yeah.
Just,
and I said, you know, and at the time there's this guy named Mac O'Grady who's like golfing machine, but he's now playing the PGA Tour, and he wins a couple times out there. And he's, this guy, you know, it's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
And you know, Greg's like, well, yeah, you know, go look at Mac and see what he's doing or whatever. And you know, Mac played in the Australian Open, and I got to watch him play down there.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a different kind of a thing. Mac was a hitter.
Okay.
So you know, what is a hitter? So the difference between hitting and swinging is a big difference. Okay, the swinger is, like I said, is taking the club shaft and trying to time the straightening of it. The golfing machine would call it a longitudinal acceleration. So it's like water coming out of a bottle, like just right. Where the hitter is more like coming down, usually a shorter backswing, more accelerating, and trying to hold shaft flex as long as possible, potentially even to the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, now when the ball's being hit, it's not just being hit by the mass of the club, it's also being hit by the load in the shaft, which makes this a lot more stable.
Okay.
Okay, and the way that you're gonna do that is you have to have more power and pressure applied post impact.
Yeah.
Okay, moving to your finish. So you're probably best to shorten the backswing at first and come down and think of, you know, Hogan talked about, you know, he felt like he was reaching maximum speed 18 inches past the ball.
Okay.
Okay, that was his focal point.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I went to see a martial arts teacher, and he talked about, he was a world champion guy and breaking bricks,
Yeah.
right? They'll stack of bricks and they'll put their hand right through it. And I said, what are you thinking about? And he said, he's thinking about getting his hand beyond the bricks. Like he's got to focus on moving his hand all the way to that point. He's got to pressure through those bricks.
Yeah.
He said, if I try and hit the first brick and I'm going to hit that hard, I'm going to break my hand.
Oh, okay.
He's got to move through the brick. So everything about the hitter is moving through the ball, accelerating, trying to hold shaft flex.
So tell me, go back a little bit for the history buffs of instruction. So you tell this to Greg and say like this, I don't know, man, this is not really going to work if I want to compete with these guys. And how was that received though?
It was great. You know, he was my teacher, you know,
Yeah.
and I just said, I think I really want to go this other route because I mean, this is my career at stake here.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to learn to be a hitter, you know, and Greg's not really a hitting instructor, you know, so, you know, he just said, well, you know, he gave me a few things to think about, which were good, you know, and Greg's a great teacher. I mean, go see, I mean, I'd send people to Greg anytime, for sure. But on the swinging side, which is what most people are doing, most people are not going to learn how to hit because it's work, man. You gotta train the body, make impact bags. I got, you know, it's strong, you know, good forearm rotation. I mean, you know, this is a heavy one iron. You know, I got pretty strong forearm to be able to do that.
So tell me about the process of taking yourself from being a swinger to being a hitter.
Yeah,
and how you did that.
So basically at that point, there were no teachers. Okay, and I kind of watched a little video clip of Lee Trevino where he said, I'm not going to take a lesson from someone that can't beat me, you know? And I'm pretty good at this point.
Yeah.
So there's not too many people around that are, you know, some teacher, it's like, well, let's go play. I mean, you know, if I'm shooting 66 and the teacher's shooting 76, you know, so I'm thinking, all right, I'm on my own. I'm on my own. I'm gonna have to teach myself.
And all those guys in Australia, like Peter Senior and Norman and Sandy Lyle, even Faldo. But these hitter guys that are crisping it, do they even really have an idea of what they were doing, or they just kind of athletically had figured it out in order to make money? But they didn't really have like.
Well, I think somebody taught them.
Somebody did. Okay.
You know, certain things, right? Mm-hmm. But that same teacher is teaching a bunch of people, and they don't all end up to be Ian Woosnam, you know, winning the Masters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So some people just naturally have a certain disposition for certain things, you know, accelerating the club. Like for me, I didn't have that at all. So I had to go through.
For you, it felt very natural to be long and time it up and sling it.
Yeah. So I just basically started, you know, there's no internet back then.
Sure.
The 80s, right? No internet. So let's figure this is 1987, 88, right in there. Mm-hmm. And I decided, okay, I gotta change. So what I did is we would have videotapes I had a videotape of Hogan, you know, all the old footage. It was still around. It came off film cameras, but somebody would convert it. And I had, you know, pictures of, I had videos of, you know, Byron Nelson, Palmer, and, you know, blah, blah. And my dad would always record the major championships in the 70s. So I had a whole stack of videos that I could go through. And I remembered like watching Curtis Strange, who was like won back-to-back US Opens right around that time.
Yeah.
And then I watch him. And then what I see from him is I see a guy who's like flattening the shaft at transition. He's coming down. And then I notice that his hands are just like disappearing behind his body like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
You know? And then you see Hogan. You know, Hogan's like this, right? His hands are here. He's not like this. At the last minute, I'm going to come down and I'm going to pick up the speed. So right here. Can you see that? As compared with handle dragging.
Okay. That's coming up in the next video. I have hours and hours of footage from this. It's kind of hard to decide what to put out first, so I'm really just going to put out everything in order. Mike, my friend, got a lesson, and then John showed me a whole bunch of different stuff, both in the net and right off the deck. And really just super, super interesting stuff. And it was really effective. The before and afters we got were super impressive. And we go into great detail into what John's talking about. And anybody who likes golf and wants to get better at golf has got to see these videos. But to see them, you got to be subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. Talk to you later. Bye.